The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica for decades, where top financial minds provide comprehensive insight into the market and ideal investment strategies and opportunities for our clients. Celebrating 37 years of excellence in investment banking. The Mayberry Virtual Investor Forum, investing in Jamaica.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dan Theok, Senior Vice President of Investment Banking. Thank you for joining us for yet another investor briefing, where we'll be looking at Supreme Ventures Limited Group Q2 results today. On the panel, we have Gary Parrott, Executive Chairman of SVL, alongside with Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Solomon Sharp. Welcome, Solo. Welcome, Gary.
Hi, afternoon, Dan. Good to have you here.
Good deal. If you're a fan of the content, then don't forget to subscribe. Also hit the bell to stay up to date with the channel. We upload content like this every week. And I remind you that we'll be having a Q&A segment, so stick around until the end of the program where we'll happily answer your questions. If you want to embark on your very first investment journey, take that first step with Mayberry Investments Limited. Follow us on social media to learn more about how you can get started today. Okay, so up front, I want to welcome Salo. Salo, welcome. I think you're muted, but glad to have you.
Yeah, hi, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. Our
Looking
CEO
forward to
of
it.
Main Event Group, but in his capacity of Chairman of SVL. Great, so we'll be taking a look at the Q2 results for the SVL Group today for the half year to June 30th, 2023. If you guys could bring up those numbers for me, I would like to run through them for the benefit of our folks, and then we will be posing some questions to Chairman Parrott and Sharp, respectively. Okay, so first up, we're talking about the results for the half year ended June 2023, and I want to start off by looking at gaming income, which was $30 billion, a 4% reduction from the same period last year. Direct expenses reduced by 8%, down to $23.7 billion. And so despite the 4% fall in revenues, we will see a 20% increase in gross profit up to $6.3 billion for the half year. And then SG&A had a 22% increase, up by $700 million to $3.88 billion. And they mention in their interim report, which I encourage you guys to read, it's out online, that they had some increased costs associated with their expansion activities and the digitization process for the group. And we'll certainly be asking them questions about that. So net result was the operating profit for the period was up by 17% to $2.6 billion. And the profit before taxation of $2.3 billion, and the net profit attributable to shareholders $1.7 billion, up by 13% and 5% respectively. So great results for the half year. Total assets down marginally by 3% to $17.7 billion, with the business holding about $2 billion in cash. And total equity up by 14% to $4.85 billion, driven by the $1.7 billion of profitability, no doubt, less whatever dividends were paid for the half year. Speaking of dividends, we see for the half year where SVL, for the quarter, I beg your pardon, where SVL earned an EPS of 37.7 cents. And as a result, true to their 90% dividend policy, they've proposed a dividend of 26.45 cents for the period. I believe that's payable next month. We'll confirm that with the chairman. And so we see SVL continuing their good ways in terms of paying really healthy dividends. Second best dividend paying company on the stock exchange. Great one to have in your portfolio if you're one who likes your dividends. Share price at $26.83, which is actually down by about 10% in the last 2 months. But that translates into a PE ratio of 22.7 times. And it shows the growth potential that the market is expecting for SVL, and we'll certainly be talking about that growth potential as we discuss the expansion into Ghana and other places. And we expect substantial growth in profitability in the business going forward. Trailing earnings for the last 12 months up to $3.1 billion. Market cap of the group up to $70 billion. Next slide shows the earnings by revenue segment. And again, 31 billion blue to green prior year to current year. We talked about revenues at $30 billion, and the lion's share of those revenues continuing to come from the lottery business at 14.8 billion, followed by sports betting, and then by the PIN code. So no substantial change in earnings there. We do see that most of the fall in earnings, the 4% fall that we talked about, came specifically in terms of revenues from the lottery games, but we see because of the reduction in the direct expenses that the gross profit margin has improved substantially. With the gross profit, as we said before earlier, growing by 20%. Next slide shows the profitability, shows the revenue composition just in the pie chart, forgive me. Next slide. We look at the profitability by quarter, the one I'm most intrigued by. And in the fourth quarter of last year, when we looked at those results in February of this year, we saw for the first time SVL for the first time in recent history, SVL breaking the $1 billion profit per quarter mark, and I charged Chairman Peart that this is the standard that we want as investors going forward. And the very next quarter, we had a fall off in profitability to $700 million. Still better than Q1 the year before. And here we see them returning effectively to $1 billion profitability per quarter. So again, I am laying down the gauntlet. We're looking for $1 billion in profitability per quarter going forward, and better as we see the business expand and the growth potential in Ghana, Africa, which I'll allow Gary to discuss, is significant. I mean, the potential is significant. The growth through digitization is also significant. Next slide shows the movement in exchange rates over the last 2 years. And as I alluded to before, this stock has traded at a high of about $33 and a low of $16 in the last 2 years. During the pandemic, we saw it go even a tad bit lower, as low as $12, and we thought it was a huge buy. Then, at the start of the pandemic, it rallied back pretty quickly to the $20 space, and if you got it at $12 2 years ago and it's at $26 today, you'd be a happy camper because you'd be up by over 100%. And I still think it's a great buy at $26. I'm going to predict in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll see the stock growing by a further 40%, and potentially by a lot more if the expansion in Ghana goes well. And I think that's it in terms of the presentation. So I would like to, at this time, bring Gary to the table, followed by Sola thereafter. Sola, I'll be coming to you with some tough questions. Gary, first one for you. Congrats on the quarter, great results. We see the gross profit margin improving substantially. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening firstly at that level. What have you guys done to see the gross profit improve substantially?
Well, let me first thank the team. Can't do it without them. And the board, the staff, and more importantly, our retailers and our wonderful customers out there for allowing us to be able to record another $1 billion quarter. I remember when you said it, it's very challenging, and we're happy to be able to put out results like this. I think it's the third time in 18 months. And hopefully we can live up to the next expectation that it's every quarter it's $1 billion, we keep skipping one. But our customers continue to enjoy our games, our products. We've seen very strong growth from a GGR perspective across our business. And to have beaten last year's number was a very good result. I mean, the first quarter was a little bit below. As you know, it's dependent on the outturn on the game, and we did pretty well this year. There are areas that we have to focus on. So there are positives, but we have several subsidiaries that have challenges. I think in my statement I made reference to SVL. Solomon is here; he can speak further on it. So we're able to make $1 billion despite a $93 million loss before tax out at SVRL. And we have some other areas that we have to focus on to deal with. We believe we can build efficiencies because we have a lot of technology rollouts, and I think once we start to implement and use that technology, we should expect to see those margins, especially the gross margins, increase accordingly.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And, I do want to take this opportunity to note, again, in the interim reports, the substantial and significant efforts of SVL in terms of corporate social responsibility. And it was really impressive. You had 4 pages speaking to all of the things you guys have done there. And what certainly stood out to me is the idea that you've contributed back to the government purses and related agencies since 2004, approximately $26 billion, $2.83 billion in the last quarter alone. So this is definitely a company that's giving back.
Yeah, we're very proud to do that. I think last year we crossed the $10 billion for the first time. It's actually a very big part of what we do in terms of our contribution to good causes, etc. We don't talk enough about it. It's, as I said, it's a very big part. And in addition to that, we also have a foundation that also does very good work. Where that is, fire safety in girls' homes. That's been one of our big projects. Supreme Heroes, that's another big one. So we do a lot there. I don't think we speak enough about it. I think we can do more to speak about it. Some people aren't aware of some of the things that happen because of Supreme Ventures in the day-to-day life of Jamaicans. And I've charged my marketing team to significantly ramp up the understanding and communication of the value and benefit that Supreme Ventures brings to the average Jamaican.
Great, I appreciate that. Salo, over to you. Well, let me come back to Salo when he's...
They call Salo's leash. So he went wandering.
Good deal. So, Mr. Sharp, we see $1 billion profit for the half year, but we see Cayman is making a $93 million loss. And, that's attributed to 2 material items, foreign exchange losses on a lease liability of about $78 million, and expected credit losses of $25 million. And this $93 million loss wasn't expected for me because last year you actually made a $68 million profit for the same period. So could you talk us through a little bit about what's happening down at Cayman as you turned a loss for the half year, but what are your expectations going forward? And in general, how has the business been performing under your watch? You need to unmute.
No. You probably need to put on the blinkers and focus.
Loud and clear, but I don't know.
We can hear you now, Salo.
Oh, you can hear me now.
Yes,
Perfect.
we can. Very good.
All right, yeah. They took off the tongue tie off for me. Change of equipment by the trainer. So when you manage a business like Caymanas, it's very tough. You can't afford for any kind of breeze to pass through because you easily catch a cold, and it turns into a bad cold, into a flu. But when I took over in Caymanas, there are some fundamental things that were definitely wrong. We have a leasehold that is based in US dollars, and we don't earn hard US dollars. We operate in a Jamaican business, and it gets pretty tough. So when the team has worked hard to keep the numbers up above water, and you have stakeholders that crying at you that they want purse increases and everything, and you're reporting a loss just because of the contract that you operate in. It's extremely tough. And we're working on the back end with some retailer management Trying to ensure that the retailers pay over your sums on time, because again, if you don't pay over your sums on time, we can't keep the ecosystem moving. So when you look on the losses, it's, as I said, it's attributable to two areas. The team at Cayman Spark continues to work hard, including the horsemen. So notwithstanding the differences that we have had recently, they know, and that's one of the reasons maybe why they came at us like this, because they know that we're working hard, and we're trying to get a better result. But some people are not as patient, and they're feeling the pinch based on how the commodities have shifted within that area. Mr. Smelly and company spoke recently about the Ukraine war affecting feed prices, and there's different costs that have gone up in that space. But for the most part, we have worked hard at trying to contain our costs. We have to pay more purses, and we're working hard at doing that. We've met with some other operational challenges, but we continue to hold strong. We have a 64-year-old plant that takes a lot of care. So, but all in all, I think that we've found a niche in the product, and the product is definitely going in a positive light. But if we continue to have the forex as being a big problem, it will forever put a strain on us, because operationally we're not doing that bad, right? We need some more horses in, and I think with the right amount of horses, our punters are the best in the world, and they'll continue to support us, and our team works very hard. So I think we've made major strides in getting Cayman Park where it needs to be. But sometimes when you put that additional monies into to get a result out, it takes a little bit of time for us to produce positive numbers. So you saw where we gave you some positive numbers last year. Certain things were rolling in our favor. The half year usually presents some better numbers for us. We have the Derby coming up soon, and we have a chock-a-block of events, and hopefully we're working on some big negotiations. So if those things work out on the global scene, it will produce better results. I just came off of a phone call with a very passionate, outspoken stakeholder, and he wants me to let the cat out of the bag and say, hey, how about you make some public commitments to all of these things that you're doing behind the scenes, and give us as a stakeholders a little bit more hope, a little bit more encouragement with the way forward. But as you know, sometimes you can't discuss contracts that are not signed yet in public. So we're waiting to cross the T's and dot the I's, but we still feel optimistic about the product, and if we can do some other developments around the plant coming up, we'll be able to definitely match the group in churning out consistent figures by the quarter.
So the second half of the year, you expect to be a bit better. One of the things I also noticed, Salo, is that you made mention of corporate sponsorship not being, quite as well as you expected. So let me give you a platform for a minute or two to speak about that and to implore folks to support the business and tell us why they should come out and support the business.
So when the business was managed by the government many years ago, the elders within the racing business had good friends, and they could make a phone call, and they could get good sponsorships. Unfortunately, the business didn't understand proper execution against a sponsorship. So when some of the younger guys came into the corporate ladder, they decided that it was best that they spend money elsewhere. However, to date, Cayman Park still has one of the strongest distributions in every nook and cranny. We operate 130 OTBs. We send our signal overseas now. So if you want to be on our signal or just mention in Cayman Park, the Cayman Park product really gets out there. However, when that happened, there was a little lull with the latter part of the government. Here comes Supreme Ventures. So while sometimes someone in corporate will give their money to a government agency because they're trying to help and keep it going, you kind of get that talk that, boy, no, Supreme Ventures, all right, and they must just pay everything. And it's a bit short-sighted, and especially with the announcements that we have coming up soon, it's best that you come on board early, because where we're taking this product, it's going to be too expensive for you. Well, you're going to not have an option but to get on board, but it's going to be very expensive for you if you don't get on board now. So we're going to do some work in the next few months. It doesn't help when we wash our dirty laundry in public, but again, you have passionate people that came on us back, and there's a culture there that believes that you must do that. Let's embarrass them and it will work for the favor. But it might turn off the corporate entities. But if you, as a corporate person, and everyone who has called me, that they did not realize how important racing was because of a lull in all of Portmore, felt very dead over the weekend. And think about it, it generates $130 million. 70%, 72% of that actually goes back to the punters. So look on the amount of money that was not stimulated in the economy. So there are a lot of people at stake. There are the race day workers, etc. It's unfortunate, heartbreaking that they wouldn't get a chance to earn. But we just have to get behind closed doors again, work our differences out, and move things forward. And I think that, with how we easily generate news, I think corporate Jamaica needs to jump on board. And we don't need big sponsorship. We need a lot of smaller sponsorships. But you'll realize that there are going to be some big opportunities. And within those big opportunities, going to come in some small opportunities. Some persons jumped on board last year, especially for the multi-mile. They're already locked in for this year. And when this big announcement is made, some of those guys will get a nice discount, but others will have to pay a little bit more. But we're doing all the right things, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time to materialize. But once we make these announcements, you'll realize, as I keep saying, sometimes in racing, just like with the horses on the backstretch, nobody sees when you're taking that horse's temperature at 4 o'clock in the morning, giving the horse 2 showers a day, etc. But whenever we win, you get noticed, So the winnings are coming very soon. I have no doubt about that. And the team is very motivated to continue to the same. And Chairman Peart and the board of directors continues to give us good support. Last time I went to a board meeting, we got some positive responses, even though it wasn't the kind of results that we would have wanted. But the group is solidly behind us, and we will continue to work hard to deliver a world-class product. We are very much liked overseas. We just need to convert all these likes to dollars. And if we can match our overseas revenues to our local revenues, and that's not far off. And we have some partners in the States that think that we can get there within 2 years. So, recently persons were saying there's a difference of $670 million. Now, when we're working hard, we're going to have $6 billion earned overseas and $6 billion earned locally. We only get 3% from the money that we earn overseas. And once we can get that 3% of the money work from overseas, this business is going to come flying. So we just ask that the horsemen, revisit their thought process, come on board, just like what we have said, and let's take this thing to the next level, because we have a product and a mystique from Jamaica that people want every day.
Excellent. Thanks for that. I appreciate that, and look forward to discussing in the second half of the year, where I expect you guys to claw back those losses and at least break even for the full year. I think it has great potential, and I'm a big fan of brand Jamaica, so I also like to appreciate how you've expanded your channels and exported effectively Caymanas to the world, as they would say. Gary, I see in your results you speak about digitization being a very comprehensive process and its growth potential is exponential. Could you just talk to us a little bit more again about the this exponential growth that you're mentioning in terms of digitization, which again was one of the areas where we saw contributing towards your increased SG&A. So we know you're preparing to expand in Ghana. That's a part of it, but you also speak about your digitization process and automation process, et cetera. Talk to us a little bit about the potential, of what you guys are looking to offer.
Thank you, Dan. I think before I start on that, I just wanted to add to some of the points that Solomon
Sure.
touched on and add to it. I think in my report, I also made a point that the increase in purses for the first 6 months relative to last year has been $15.2 million. So what it means is that if we continue at that pace, the purse increase would be at least $30 million. Why that's important, whilst I hear Solomon's optimism, one of the challenges I face is, Solomon comes to me and says he and his stakeholders believe in partnership. But Solomon and his stakeholders signed a contract last year that was a very big concession by SVREL, where we would give up 49% of our GGR. So whether or not we can contain our expenses, we have to pay out 49%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the concerning thing for the group, and certainly myself, for the 6 months numbers, because we're abiding by that formula, even though we have recorded $93 million in loss. And it's interesting that, whilst people are saying they don't want 27 million in purse increases, 15 million already has been paid. And, I noticed that the heads of associations selectively pull certain information from the agreement, the signed agreement, whilst not pulling on other things. And one of the first points I want to make, the formula in the agreement speaks to the minimum purse that must be paid. Last year, when it was signed by the relevant heads, it indicated a particular purse number, and the result that has come down actually showed that SVREL paid more purse than what the formula put out. Because the formula puts out the minimum purse.
Right.
Once again, the stakeholders who are jumping up and down has not said that to their constituents. When we met with them, or when Solomon met with them in April, it was determined from them that it was $27 million. That's what the formula said. So last year when the formula spit out a number they liked, nobody had a problem. The formula spit out a minimum number, right? And all of a sudden, they got a number and they held on to that number. And I personally spoke to the head of the Trainers Association sometime towards the end of April, and I said to him, what are you going to do when your constituents hear that our number is correct? The number you're holding on to is incorrect. We gave him a presentation and explained to him why our numbers was correct, but yet still himself and other association heads held on to it. Now when the fact comes through that our number is correct, they're trying to pivot and behave like they did not sign this contract. And they're trying to pivot and trying to come and renegotiate a contract. We don't have a problem sitting down and speaking to stakeholders, but we cannot say we're partners, and if we go into something together, if it feels like you don't like it, you then get up, you shut down the environment, and we all suffer. So it's ironic that the ecosystem wants a purse increase, but then when you shut down racing, because it's not a problem to talk, when you shut down racing, everything stops, and it makes it more difficult to get back to where you started from, right? And the sad part about it is that the majority of the constituents does not have the staying power of Howard Hamilton. Howard Hamilton is a wealthy individual. They don't have the staying power of Patrick Smelly. Patrick is a very wealthy individual. And they certainly don't have the staying power of an Andrew Azar, who's another wealthy individual, right? So, it makes sense for the ecosystem to, let's look at it. If you don't understand it, so be it. If you misled your stakeholders, just come out as a big man and admit it, and let us move forward, right? So, You know, it's not that we're holding any money. We budgeted it. It has been paid, and it is the minimum, and it probably will be more by the end of the year. But we have to balance. As Solomon says, he has to balance his thing. For the first time in a very long time, the staff of SVRL got an incentive payment or qualified for an incentive payment based on the performance last year. Based on the performance for the first 6 months, it's not likely it's going to happen. They also want a salary increase. And for the avoidance of doubt, based on the numbers that we have seen year to date, the operational expenses of the company as a whole has gone up by 20-odd%. So in addition to the FX, the other expenses at SVRL has gone up 20%. So guess what? It is not just the other stakeholders in racing that's impacted by increased expenses. SVRL is also impacted by increased expenses. And as I said, we've agreed to a formula where we've already started to pay out under the formula, even though our expenses have jumped. And it is evidenced by the fact we've lost $93 million and we still paid an increase in purse, right? So how do we get out of this? The person who is not at the table is the government of Jamaica, right? There are a variety of things that can happen. Every horse racing jurisdiction, the government provides a variety of different subsidies. So instead of the stakeholders and SVRL, we're doing our best. We were asked to spend $500 million. We spent $4 billion, and we continue, right? People speak about the things we haven't done, but again, they're selective. When we came into this transaction, we were told that water is plentiful. The well that we have inherited has collapsed. Luckily, we had the vision to build a new well. By the time we commissioned the new well, the other well collapsed in 2 days. By right, as I said to Solomon, should the landlord pay for that, right? Should Solomon put in an elevator and allow water to run out, which will kill the horses if they don't have any water, right? So all of these things, you know, some of the stakeholders choose not to look at it. That's just one example of the several things that have been put in. It takes a lot of money. So it's not just purses. We have increased purses in everything. And I conclude by saying this, Dan, because it's so evident. It is in SVREL's interest to increase purses as much as financially possible. Because the greater the purses, the more interest. It makes sense. But we can't willy-nilly do that. And the sad thing about it, those same stakeholders were around when a particular board of the then government track increased the purse above what was usual. And by the end of the year, the entity was almost bankrupt. So everything has to go incrementally, right? And I'm saying we're getting there. Solomon is doing a phenomenal job of finding ways to grow the revenue. But Dan, if Solomon goes and convinces TVG, FanDuel, to take Caymano's track signal over 1,000 other tracks, and then you shut down racing, because they've done it because they want content. And you shut down racing and they don't have the content. When they get to the point and say, thanks, but no thanks, we're not going to do it, and you lose that revenue, right? We just have to start over again. If that's what everybody wants, to start over. How do you get increased purses and your very actions are creating an environment for revenue to decrease? It doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
So, as I said, Solomon, I think communication is key. I think you need to speak as much as possible to the public. I think you need to find a way to educate the key people for this. Howard Hamilton, Patrick Smelly, and all the other stakeholders. Because I close by saying I want to give thanks to all those trainers who nominated the last nomination day. I call each and every one of them because I think they saw through what the reality is. It's not perfect, but with you we'll help build this thing together. You asked a question about digitization.
Digitization being comprehensive and its growth potential being exponential.
And you know, whilst I segued into Caymanas, that's also one of the things we're doing to grow revenues at Caymanas. Because MBET has made it very easy for the key punter, that professional punter, to make their wager without worrying about getting to the head of the line. Also, some of these relationships that we have signed with our overseas partners, these are some of the things that they're using to increase efficiency, right? But within SVL itself, we continue to build our online stores. We continue to see more and more customers come on because it gives them a certain level of independence now. So, within the cashbot space, nobody wants to share their number, right? But once they have the SV gaming app on their phone, they don't need to leave the job to run and buy a ticket and come back. They just put it on the phone. You can actually buy your ticket up to 2-3 days in advance, right? And those are some of the benefits of that. In terms of the back office, that's where the huge potential is for digitization. Because now, once my retailer lodges their monies, it just goes straight through updates to general ledger. You can get a daily P&L. They can immediately see their accounts being updated. Yeah. Even their lodgement slip, they upload their lodgement slip. Once it's stamped, we know it's real. We can do the back office check on that, and that happens right across the board. And why is that important? If every time we penetrate a new country or a new business, you cannot be increasing, for a better example, the staff load in a department. But once you have a proper digitized platform, the more you scale it, is the more efficient it becomes. So both on the revenue side and on the expense side, it makes a lot of sense. And the final point is, we have a platform that we call the Supreme Life platform. So in addition to our lottery business, we have other digital businesses on it. As you know, SVL is the largest phone credit provider in the country, and that sits on a similar platform. We have our own proprietary phone credit business. We have a bill payment business. So that digitization allows us to put more and more businesses on it to serve the same set of customers. So you'll get to a point that once you log on to a single sign-on for Supreme Ventures, you'll be able to access a variety of products and services. And I think that's the ultimate goal for us.
Excellent. Tell me, Gary, I see you mention about you guys realigning responsibilities with your lottery software provider during the period and how that also helped to generate substantial income for the business. Could you expand on that for us a bit so we could appreciate that point?
Yeah, so that's for one of our products, which our partner used to run, had majority of responsibilities for running it. Upon further analysis, we realized that we were, for a better word, carrying a heavier load. And, once we sat down and spoke about it and rebalanced responsibilities and outcomes, it generated a figure that was very favorable both to us and our partner. And so going forward, we think the agreement will be more equitable, and we believe that once the game is played a certain way, our margins actually will continue to grow and will be much better.
Excellent. That's good to hear that. I think that augurs well for my $1 billion target that I'm setting for you per quarter.
I tried.
Speaking of growing the business, Gary, what are your updates for us in terms of Ghana? What's happening down there? We're waiting patiently to appreciate how that expansion opportunity is playing itself out.
So at a board meeting today, the Ghanaian rollout team actually demonstrated the different platforms. So effectively, we're ready. So we've started a marketing program there. We started with a teaser. We have put out our what's it called, moniker, the word that, so it's more moolah, more power. So we had that out there. The expectation as per license is that we should start by the 26th of July. We're on track to start on the 26th of July. We've started testing. We've gone into the marketplace. So far, the response has been very favorable. So we will kick off with Pick 4 on July 26th. We'll have an official launch on August 1. As you know, that's Emancipation Day, which is very important for us. And, all things at this point looks very favorable. So our ability to distribute the game, certainly digitally, is significantly greater there than it is here, because digital digital products and adoption is significantly more advanced in Ghana than it is here in Jamaica. So we're very optimistic. We expect that the game will do well. And as I said, we start with pick 4 and we launch pick 1 a couple of months after.
Good deal. And just to make that point about the opportunity in Ghana, so the population is approximately 30 million, I believe. So
34.
we're talking 34 million, so 11 times the size of Jamaica. And their use of mobile wallets and payments is substantially advanced in Ghana with the mobile penetration rate there being very significant.
What's interesting, when just a double down on the 2 points. Here in Jamaica, when we set up our digital solution, we have to go through, several steps for KYC. One of the things that was very impressive is that in Ghana, you have a national identification number. And once you're certified, that covers most of the KYCs. And, what we found is that here in Jamaica, when the customer wants to play on our platform here, you have to go through probably about 12 to 15 steps. In Ghana, it's 4. You pick up your phone, you input the hashtag and the number. Your game turns up, and within 3 more steps, you have bet, and then you get a confirmation that your bet is there.
Excellent. So the potential is huge. So it sounds like we need to have you back in the next quarter to see how that goes, because in the world of rolling out these new services, I think within certainly 90 to 180 days you'll have a good sense as to.
Should.
You'll have a very good sense.
Well, I mean, the marketing expense is pretty high at the
Yes.
start because you're trying to get people to
Yes.
come on board. But yeah, I mean, I believe if we can turn it around in the first 3 months, that'll be a great news, and that will put us in a good place.
Good deal. So I haven't forgotten you guys. They're out in social media. So I want to come to your questions. Last one, Gary, is the dividend for SVL. Was that declared today, or
Yes,
it was coming
the dividend was declared today. I wanted to thank Solomon. I don't know if he's still online. Solomon and his primary hat main event, because some people would have noticed the anomaly where we made $1 billion or 37 cents for the quarter, but the dividend was 26.5 cents. And the reason for that is that 200 million of our profit year to date actually came from unrealized gains from our equity holdings in a small company called Main Event Limited.
Yes, you did make an investment.
I wanna thank the CEO and directors and staff of Main Event for their contribution to our profit. But because it's unrealized and not cash, we adjusted the profit for the quarter and then applied the 90% on the realized cash, which came out to 26.5 cents.
Good deal. Okay, first question, Salah. The questions are coming in from social media. First question will be for you, Salah. It's coming in from Philip Burgess. Big up, Sir Salah. Speaking of events, has the joint venture production company between Main Event and SVREL started any projects as yet?
No, none of those projects have started as yet. But we're working behind the scenes. We have had conversations almost every day, Gary, in the last 2 weeks about the same thing. So we're looking at some projects going on, but we have to evaluate the landscape of Jamaica first. There are some projects already in play. You don't want to, to just rush in and do projects and cannibalize other projects there, or marginalize your output when you're competing against something that is very close to that. So those things are in the pipeline, and it's about timing. We coming out of COVID, we wanted to be more aggressive about that. But sometimes, just like, when you're preparing a horse, you can be a little bit aggressive and create an injury. So we want to make sure that when these things happen, it happens great. And, there are other projects in the pipeline like Ghana, etc. So we'll soon be able to make some big announcements on that.
All right, I look forward to that, Salah. Here's what I'm asking of you. I've tasked Mr. Peart with $1 billion profit per quarter. This thing called the Mute Mile. Line up a concert or two around it, man. Make a big event. You know, like how they have Sunfest and lots of events coming up to it. I'd love to see.
Be careful what you ask for.
I'd love to see a concert or
Gary
two
took the words out of my
around
mouth.
the Mute Mile. You heard it here, folks, from Dan Theok first. Mute Mile. We want some concerts. Can't afford Usher, not so make sure you have something that I can afford at the Mute Mile. Janice Makhanoff, welcome. First time tuning in from Jerome. He says, what is the timeline? This is for you, Mr. Parrott and boy Jerome. You're picking this one early. I don't think we can respond to you, but I want to read the question because it came from Jerome. What is the timeline to make a larger push into the microfinance space, and what is the plan for that revenue line? Mr. Parrott.
Can I ask? Can you ask that question tomorrow morning?
So, Jerome? Jerome, I don't know if you have some insider information.
Oh, boy.
But let me tell you, SVL is in the microfinance space and is looking to expand substantially. That's what I've heard, but I can't say anything more.
Yes, so we actually have two microfinance businesses. We have, for want of a better word, a terrestrial microfinance business called Michaela, and then we also have a fintech microfinance, which is all digital. It's called Evolve. So we're in microfinance in terms of two different platforms. And as I said, probably tomorrow you might get a different answer.
They're going to be expanding, Jerome. Remember, you heard it first here on the Mayberry investment program. Philip Burgess again asks, how is the progress on the solar system out at Caymanas?
It's not where we'd want it to be. As we had said before, the system has been commissioned. Unfortunately, we're not getting the full benefit of it because we haven't been able to hook it up to the stables. And again, this is some of the things that they don't want to talk about because what we inherited were flawed electrical wiring. And so we've done an audit, and we have to find the capex to rewire the whole thing before we can get the solar system to be connected. But notwithstanding, it actually was one of the bright spots when I look back on the 6 months figure, because we have actually seen material savings from the connection to the main building so far. And that also helps with the disappointment, because you're seeing that if you're able to connect it to the stables and really finish the thing, the savings would have been much more substantial. And trust me when I tell you, Caymanas Park needs these savings. And it's just another example of what I just said. The same guys that want you to increase your purses, these are things that if they manage the stables that's within their ecosystem, it would make it easier to install these stuff. I've missed a point earlier when I was on the whole Caymanas point. The same agreement that has been signed from last year, that with everything known to everyone, has a section in there that states that if anybody in that stakeholder group finds sponsorship, SVREL has committed that 100% of that sponsorship goes to purse. So again, if there's anybody in a stakeholder who, have businesses that can give sponsorship, hey, carrot come. It goes straight to purse. And, as I said, the two key things that's missing right now out at Caymanas, you don't have a material input from the government. And the second one is sponsorship. And as Solomon alluded to, we're in negotiations with some major sponsors. And then we had this scenario where these guys just got up and decided that, hey, they're going to kick over the pail of milk. And the sponsors are like, really? This is what you really want us to come into? And those are the facts. People might not want to hear them, but that's the reality. We can get excited about the potential of Caymanas, but if our partners don't come on board and recognize that it's going to take time. Caymanas has a particular mindset. They see people in a particular way. I mean, having been out there, I realize that a lot of people, are much better than how the profile suggests. But it's a sell job to get people to explain it, right? And when we do things like this, I'm not saying you must always agree with Solomon, right? But what I'm saying is, and Solomon says it, you don't have to wash your laundry, dirty laundry in public. This is something that could have been easily achieved. And as I said, you create this tension, you create this lockdown on the basis that a number is incorrect. You've gotten proof that our number is correct. Let's get back to racing, right? If you're embarrassed that you didn't tell the people before, just find a way. They won't kill you. Just tell them. Tell them you knew from April, because they did know from April, right? And let's get back to work, and let's find a way to continue building this thing together.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And speaking about that, Donovan Wilson asks, what about live horse racing on free-to-air television?
So we've covered that ground, and Donovan is fully aware of the covering of that ground. And so what has happened, you know, live racing on free-to-air, you know, was always there, but the reality is that we were not paid for the content. And the type of content that, you know, Caymanas has is deserving of a payment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we took it off free to air, because the radio station or TV station wasn't prepared to pay us for that content. Subsequently, we have set up a streaming site on the Caymanas to Go thing there, website, and it has served its purpose. We have a really nice constituent of people that come there and watch the races, and it's working pretty well. And so there's no need to put it on live racing for free, or even worse, to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually now are beaming our racing via Bridge FM. You know, Bobby Clark and is doing a wonderful job with that. You know, so we've come a far way where we're no longer paying people to carry the signal for Caymanas. And again, that's an example. You know, we were beaten up very badly when we took it off free to air, and people were saying it can't happen. But a lot of people don't understand the business of horse racing, or don't want to understand the business of horse racing. And even if you don't understand the business, there are certain basic things, right? There are certain people out there. Richard Lake is not going to run Krispy Kreme, as healthy as it is, at a loss.
Yeah.
Right? These guys are not going to run their business at a loss. All of the guys that are lining up to say, give this, in their private vocation, they are for profit.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, SVRL is a promoter. And a promoter is there to make a profit, right? We understand it will take time. We have overinvested, but we continue to invest, right? So until somebody shows me evidence that they will voluntarily sell their business at a loss, right, then we can have a talk. And even then, I'm not going to join the church, right? And there is a way, there is a model. The American model is flawed, where you need subsidies from gaming institutions. It doesn't work. That's why we look to Hong Kong and other tracks which are profitable, because they make sustainable profit and it can work. And we proved it last year that it can work in Jamaica, and we're going to prove it going forward.
Thank you for that. And that also answers a question Philip Burgess had asked about the sponsorship support and who would benefit from it mainly. And you answered that question as well, too. So hopefully, Philip, you got your response there. And yep, I think that's it from social media in terms of questions. So, you know, Mr. Perrin, I want to thank you and Solo for coming on the program and providing some insights into the half-year results. I do encourage you guys to take a look at the interim results themselves. You know, they're quite impressive. You know, this is a second quarter out of 3 with SVL turning a $1 billion profit for the quarter, despite the challenges at Caymanas. We think Caymanas has come a long way in the last 4 years. We've heard of the $4 billion investment, the over $500 million investment just in the solar system alone, which we think is going to also all go well for the future of the sport and the ability to bring night racing, for instance. Solo, please remember my events around the Mute Mile. I'd like to come and enjoy myself out there at a concert. And so we really look forward to seeing bigger and better things from the group. I look forward to the expansion into the digitization process and you guys expanding on your mobile channels a lot more. I look forward to you expanding into the microfinance space, and I believe we're going to hear some announcements, some imminent announcements are going to be made in the very, very near future. I have no doubt that you're going to hit that $1 billion mark for the next 2 quarters coming up and beyond. We look forward to coming back and hearing about the grand opening in Ghana August 1, and then within the next 3 to 6 months thereof, hearing of how well that business is performing. I think SVL is just a great stock to have in your portfolio, folks. I personally do not gamble. I don't need to gamble. I buy the stock. No need to gamble. I bought the stock at $10. I'm in love with it at $28. I'm looking forward to going to $50 in the next 2 years for sure, and seeing it continue to grow and do well. And in the meantime, I'm getting very handsome dividends from SVL. Thank you very much. Thanks for the explanation, Mr. Peart, about the 26.5-cent dividend versus the 37-cent earning. Last question for me. Surely expanding into Ghana is going to take money and a good budget. I assume you have that all covered already?
Yes.
Good to know. And so we're just looking forward to the results, folks. And still not too late, despite the 22 times PE ratio, to buy SVL at $26, $27. Not too late. Don't make the train miss you. We're going to come back in 18 months' time, no more than, could be less, when we see 12 full months of results of Ghana rolling through. This is a $50 stock in my view. And you will have missed the boat if you wait another 6 to 9 months to get this stock. So this is another one, that's definitely in my top 10. You gotta have NCB, you have to have MGE, you have to have SVL. Great dividend flows from SVL in the meantime as well too. My dividend yield is 12% relative to the price I bought it at. So if you get on the train now, maybe your dividend yield will be 5%, but it's great cash flow, great future capital appreciation. And it's a company that's reinvesting 93% of its revenues back into Jamaica, paying almost $3 billion a quarter into good causes. And so it's a great company that's giving back to Jamaica. And for that reason, it's in my stock portfolio. So I encourage you guys to go forward and do likewise. Well, I think that's it for today's program. Looking to wrap up. And I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in as usual, and big thanks to Gary Peart and Solomon Sharp for their invaluable insights into today's program. Big up, gentlemen. As usual, if you're curious about our updates on our virtual investor forum, you should check us out on social media, Mayberry Investments Limited. If you like the program, please give us a like. And we hope you will follow the channels to see all things forum related. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited. And as always, wise investors, we like to remind you, slow and steady wins the race. Goodbye.
The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica for decades, where top financial minds provide comprehensive insight into the market and ideal investment strategies and opportunities for our clients. Celebrating 37 years of excellence in investment banking. The Mayberry Virtual Investor Forum, investing in Jamaica.